Well, we'll probably never know exactly what you saw, what you heard, but I guarantee you law enforcement looked into it. Was she totally cooperative with them? We'll never know.
Holly Hughes, I got to bring you in, my former prosecutor pal. I've got to tell you, I don't know. I would have looked pretty hard at Donnie Sandusky because there were victims that said, one in particular, that he cried out and that she should have heard him and she never came, that she was in the house. And many of the victims say that Dottie Sandusky was there. She was in the house when they would come over, and that Jerry Sandusky obviously would have left her side to be with these boys in the basement of their home. I would have looked at her. I would have tried to pressure her, quite frankly, to testify somehow. I may have charged her. What do you think?
Well, I would have loved to have charged her, but the problem with Dottie is, and you and I both know this, Sonny, for a criminal charge, you need not just the actus reus, but the mens rea. You need to have an act, you need to have the guilty knowledge or the intent to act. And unfortunately, just because she suspected something was going on, if she didn't have actual knowledge, it's kind of like that know or should have known language we like in the law so much, because we look at people and we think, how could you have not known? How could you have been so blinded or so stupid as to not see all these signs? And the problem with Dottie Sandusky, she strikes me as being a very sheltered woman. Her husband is her life. She stood by him all these years, raising the foster kids. She's now standing by him through this criminal case. And, I'm with you. Everything in me, Sonny, as a former prosecutor, just wants to say you had to know what was going on under your own roof. You had to see the look on those children's faces when they came up out of that basement. You had to know. But the problem is what we suspect and what we can prove in a court of law are sometimes two completely different animals. And I'm sure the investigators went really hard at her, but here's the thing with her. Dottie can't even admit it to herself, let alone admit it to somebody else. She just can't go there in her own mind. We were talking with Dr. Gardier earlier, and he was saying, if the defendant, the convicted molester, were to admit to himself what he'd done, he might be so suicidal he would take his own life. I think even more so with Dottie, if she were to admit what went on and that she slept next to this man for 30-some years, knowing what he was and what he was doing, I think she would completely unravel, and that's just where we are right now.
And Jean, I think that, Holly's making a good point. Perhaps she just, Dottie has to be in such denial. Now, you were there for the trial, and Dottie was there each and every day. Did you see a different Dottie Sandusky today, or did you see the same sort of steely person that was there in the courtroom during the trial? Because she had to listen to the victims talk today as well. Isn't that right?
True. I saw basically the same person. The biggest change I saw in was Jerry Sandusky from, a 68-year-old man to somebody that looked just worn out and very thin and scrawny today. Dottie was about the same, maybe a little more stressed today. Jordan Dola went up to her before everything began. I was sitting so close I could hear it. And he said, "How are you doing? Are you holding up?" And he said, we really have to look at this as a brand new start today, and this is just a process that we have to go through, and you can get through it. Just giving her a type of a pep talk there. But I want to revert back to the trial testimony, because I think Mike Brooks hit something on the head in regard to victim number 4, because the testimony of victim number 4 was when they were in San Antonio for the Alamo Bowl, and the wife, Dottie, came into the room. Jerry was in the bathroom with victim 4. She had just come into the hotel room, and she said, "What are you doing in there?" Well, what do you think a person does in a bathroom, right? So that question right there showed her state of mind, and it may have shown a lot more than just face value.
That is a very good point, because Dottie Sandusky was not only placed, you're right, at the home when many of these things happened. She was there in the hotel room, because oftentimes the children also stayed in the hotel room with them. Isn't that right?
No, that's right. The children stayed in the hotel, the same room with Jerry and Dottie on many of these trips. Most were around around Pennsylvania, but a couple, especially victim 4, was out of state.
And Jean, remind our viewers, when Dottie Sandusky took the witness stand, isn't it true that when she was asked, you know, why would these young men lie like this? What was her response?
Blame the victims. She blamed the victims. She went, you know, they showed picture by picture on the screen, and she would say, he had a lot of problems. He did. He was always a troublemaker. And so she would really go through designating and giving reasons why these children would, in her mind and their mind, fabricate everything.
And Mike Brooks, just going back to you briefly, do you recall that testimony with Dottie on the witness stand? Because she did apparently come in and ask, what are you guys doing in there? What's going on?
Absolutely, and because I was going back to my notes, you know, the victim number 4 at the time was testimony, 28 years old, and yeah, he was there. He was there at the Alamo Bowl, you know, in San Antonio, as Jean says, and she did walk in there. You know, what did she really see? What did she, you know, what did she hear? You know, that's what I want to know. You know, again, it's just, what was she just hitting herself? You know, in denial. She just is still in denial. But you know, but victim number 4 also, you know, he played racquetball. They took showers, had soap fights, and you know, but still, what really happened in that bathroom? And what did Dottie really see? What did she really?
I think that's a question that we are always going to have.
Yeah.
What did Dottie see? What did she hear? What did she know? And perhaps that is a question that we will never get the answer to. Thank you so much for joining me and discussing this very important issue. And joining me next.